How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and this is going to be my very first Q&A video. So this is kind of to coincide with me doing my 100 movie reaction, which will be tomorrow night, which will be for the movie Shane. So I put a poll up a few weeks ago, and that was the winner. So this is kind of a way to kind of, yeah, it's like coincide with that, but also kind of just a way to engage with you, the followers and subscribers, a bit more. I thought it might be kind of a fun thing for you as well. So with that, I'll get into the questions. Just get him up here. So the first one is from snootybaronet, and he asks, "Is there still a healthy film industry in Ireland? Years ago, I recall the old Irish Film Board holding an annual festival of Irish films in my hometown, Boston. I haven't heard as much about Irish films recently, except about English-born director and screenwriter Martin McDonagh, who makes films in Ireland. The most recent being The Banshees of Inisherin. I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen it yet either, but I've heard it's really good. And in relation to your question, yeah, like you don't hear a lot, and even like at least from my perspective, even in the country, I don't hear. It's usually you just usually hear kind of more about American stuff or just big budget films that are coming out. I guess you kind of have to seek it out more if you want to see what's kind of happening in the Irish scene. Now, there was that film though last year that came out that was really well received. The Colleen Keown, so the Quiet Girl, as the English translation for it, and that was really well received. I think it was nominated for Best Academy Award for Best Foreign Film. So, and I'm pretty sure that was like funded from Irish production companies. So that was one there. But I do know that a lot of production companies are coming over to Ireland to film. I think part of that has got to do with tax reasons. The tax system isn't as heavy on them over here. But I know like there's a Tri Studios which is in County Limerick, which is maybe what 25-minute drive from where I'm based. That opened up about 7 or 8 years ago, and they've done a lot of shows. And there's another studio being filmed as well. So they're getting a lot of production companies that are coming over. I actually worked on one about maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. Foundation. It was a sci-fi show, um, and it was a lot of fun. I was like a background actor, and I was like on a set. It was like a ship. It felt like it was on Star Trek, which was really cool because I'm a massive Star Trek fan. And that was really cool. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of production companies that are coming over to Ireland, so I guess it's benefiting a lot in that regard. I know like one of the recent Star Wars movies, some of it was filmed in County Cork, and I have heard that the last season of Stranger Things, some of that is going to be filmed in Ireland as well. So I guess from that standpoint, it's doing well. But I think I guess again, it's you have to seek it out. Like you really have to look for it to kind of if you really want to see what's happening with Irish film industry. Um, but yeah, a good question. Um, the next one is from Harvey4512, and he asks, "Will Kelly's Heroes be scheduled for September?" Yeah, well, not definite. I mean, I had a plan for September. See, the thing is, sometimes I'll have a schedule, and then I'll kind of look back at it, and I'll be like, just this is just a for instance kind of thing now, an example. Like I'd be like, okay, I have three films from 1950s there, and then I might have a fourth one coming up, and I'm like, okay, maybe I should do something from maybe the 90s or the 70s or maybe the 2000s, just to kind of change it up a little bit. Or it might be that like I have maybe three sci-fi films, and I'm like, okay, maybe I should do like a comedy or a horror film to change it up a bit. So if not September, it'll definitely be November. It just depends on the schedule because October is basically I'm mainly going to be doing horror related stuff for the most part for October. Even the westerns, I'm looking at stuff that kind of have a horror or thriller kind of undertone to it for that month. So, but with Kelly's Heroes, if it's not September, it'll definitely be in November. So it'll be one or the other, just determining or going on kind of scheduling tweaks here and there. But it'll be September or November, one or the other. Um, but yeah, just on to the next question now. Let me just go to the next section here. So we have so Oaf77 asks, which movie was the first that made you love westerns? Ooh, that's a good question. Um, so the first one I watched was High Noon. That was a really good film. I enjoyed that a lot. Um, but I think the one that really kind of really opened my eyes and made me realize that like, wow, this is a really good genre. I think would probably be The Big Country with Gregory Peck and Charlton Heston. And I think because a couple of reasons. One was, well, first, it's a fantastic film, but it was a bit different from the other westerns I'd seen at the time up until that point. And I kind of thought, I was like, oh wow, this genre really kind of goes places and kind of you can get really different types of stories in this genre. Because it kind of wasn't a type of western I had pictured in my head, but like I thought it was a phenomenal film, really, really good. And then it was also the fact that like I hadn't heard anything about it. Like when I was looking up before I started the channel, I was looking up like westerns to watch, and I rarely saw that mentioned. And I never saw it like mentioned like greatest westerns of all time. And I was so impressed by it, and then the fact that I had heard so little said about it. Now maybe it is like really strongly beloved in the genre, but I just had never come across that. I'd never really seen it mentioned among the great westerns. But I thought it was a fantastic film, and I think it kind of opened my eyes, and I said and told me like, wow, okay, there's a lot that can be done with this genre, and it also made me excited for going forward to find other kind of hidden gems because I knew that like obviously there's some great westerns that are you have great reputations that we've heard of, even kind of the casual film fan would have heard of. But this kind of showed me like, okay, there's a lot of films out there that you have to really seek them out. That can be a lot of fun, and there's certainly other ones I've seen as well. But I think yeah, I think The Big Country was one that really kind of taught me like, okay, this is really westerns are really good. You can be really excited about them. Um, Next question is from Jason Span 8042, and he asks, "Where are you from in Ireland, and what is the area like?" So I'm from County Tipperary, which is it's kind of south midwest. So it's inland, but it's kind of more towards the west, and it's more the south of the country. And I'm based in the north of Tip, just on the border outside County Limerick. Um, and I guess it's just your typical small Irish village slash kind of, I guess, a combination of a village slash town, but it's very small. I mean, I think the population is just over like maybe 2,000 in and around there. And it's actually expanded in the last 10, 15 years. Like it would have been even less than that before, but a lot of houses were built in the last 10, 15 years. So its population has expanded a little bit. Um, and yeah, it's like, I mean, we have shops, or maybe say in America, like convenience stores, petrol stations. You got your doctors, churches, vet, all that kind of stuff. You have all that. Yeah, just a small area and some beautiful spots as well for walking. Unfortunately, I didn't get to go as much as I would usually go during the summer, I guess because we've had so much rain. But yeah, really nice area. Maybe like someday when I'm out walking, I might take a picture or a video and just like put it up as a community post for you. But yeah, that's kind of what it's like. Nice area. At least I think so anyway, for the most part. It's a couple of more questions from Jason. He has, what are your personal favorite movies that you haven't watched on the channel? Um, yeah, okay, so there's a few, but my favorite movie of all time is Stand By Me, and I think one of the reasons for that is, like, as a child, I loved it, and I think part of that is because the protagonists are children, so seeing them in these situations, but also like because they curse in it, like so they speak like children would really speak. It's 15, so there's a realism to it. So, but as a child, you're kind of engrossed because it's children. But as an adult looking back at it, it's a great movie. But also you can reflect. It reminds you of your childhood. So I think it's a very uh universal film in the from the standpoint that like you can all look back at your childhood, and I think it reminds you of your childhood. Um, like there's even that bit at the end where Gordy he's writing his memoirs and he says like how he's writing them and he says, I never had any or I never had any friends like the ones I had when I was 12 years old. Jesus does anyone. And it's so true. You don't have friends like the ones you have when you were 12, 13, 14, even 11, 10. The kind of stuff that you would get up to and do. It's so unique and different, and you never forget the friends you had at that age. And I just think it reminds me, it takes you back so much to childhood, and it really captures that time in your life. So I just think it's a really powerful film, and the performances from the children, River Phoenix, Will Wheaton, Corey Feldman, and Jerry O'Connell are fantastic. and it's set in the 50s. I love the 50s, so that's just like an extra bonus. Um, but yeah, just a phenomenal film. Another one would be Back to the Future, which is just like, you know, I find it hard to believe anyone couldn't enjoy Back to the Future. It just, it's the perfect blend of, you've adventure, you've action, you've comedy, you've drama, just really fun, interesting characters, and a great concept as well. And another one that's set primarily in the 50s, so you get some great music. Then a few others would be like Jaws, um, The Shining, the Universal Frankenstein, the original from 31, and Psycho. There'd be a few more. And Dazed and Confused as well. I love that. There'd be a few more. There's a lot, like, but they would be some that would definitely be up there. Um, and then he asks, "What are your hobbies or interests outside of movies?" Um, so outside of movies, so I love theater. I have a degree in theater actually, and I do like writing. So I've kind of a few half scripts done, and then a few kind of concepts. But I'd like to get a few finished and just get them out there. Maybe try and send them out to theater companies. I've done a lot of acting in theater as well, so both professionally and not like at a large scale, but a small scale. But like I've made a little money from it, and also amateur productions as well. And I've done a little directing, so like theater will be one. Then I love soccer and tennis. They'd be like the two sports I would be big into. Um, and then just like as I said earlier, like walking. I love going for walks and listening to podcasts. That's like probably my favorite thing to do. So yeah, that'd be kind of some of the interests and hobbies outside of movies for me. Um, let's see, next one. Um, do you believe the moon landing really took place? And that was from Mary G 8152. Yes, I do. I know there's like theories or people have said that like they think it was faked. Like I wasn't there personally to experience it, but I would imagine if it had been faked, that there would have been some kind of like what is it like over 60 years now, probably more. You would imagine there would be some kind of concrete evidence or indications that would have leaks that would have come out to kind of really strongly indicate that it was faked. So yeah, for me, I think that it did take place. Yeah, I do think it did take place. Um, Next one is from TikTok Melody 9190. He has a couple of questions. So he asks, "What made you decide to focus on westerns for the channel? Would love the origin story of your interest in that specific genre." So that's the first one. So yeah. So one of the reasons I focused on it was I've always kind of been intrigued by the setting of westerns. I love the setting, that kind of barren wasteland, the desert. Because even as a child, I always loved like it's also the kind of sandal movies, but like period pieces. I always kind of was intrigued. They always just instantly drew me into the story. Like even the original Planet of the Apes, even though I know it's set in the future, the kind of rags that Charlton Heston's character Taylor had on, and Ape City itself, it was very kind of primitive, and I love that setting. That just like drew me into the story instantly. And I guess like that was kind of a little bit with westerns as well. I like that setting. That kind of it's not a contemporary setting, so that was like an easy way to kind of get me into it. And then the other reason was just that um, I'd seen like virtually nothing from the genre, and I thought, wow, that would be great, like kind of springboard into doing these reactions, like start doing a genre where something I've seen virtually nothing from. So like all these classics, and then you've all these kind of hidden gems as well. There's so much with it. Like I know a lot of people kind of did like I've done a lot of like do a lot of Marvel reactions and kind of like stuff like Jurassic Park. I love Jurassic Park, but kind of those um kind of popular movies from kind of the late 20th century into the 21st century kind of um and I'm not knocking those movies at all. Like I just thought like not I didn't see a lot of people or reactors doing a lot of westerns, and I thought like, oh, that's an area I could focus on maybe, and that might be something for western fans to enjoy, um, to go with that genre. So they were kind of the reasons why I focused on westerns as the focal point of the channel. So then he asked, what is your least favorite police song? Oof, God, that's tough. Um, For anyone who doesn't know, the Police are like my favorite band of all time. Ah, God, I'm gonna stick strictly with the albums. Um, there's a song on Zenyatta Mandata. It's on I think it's the last song on the first side, and it's the only like the that the first side A is fantastic. You've Don't Stand So Close to Me. You have Driven to Tears. When the World's Running Down, You Make the Best of What's Still Around. I think Canary in the Coal Mine's on that side. But Bombs Away was one. And like, it's not a bad song. It's just, it doesn't kind of grip me as much as the others. Maybe a little more kind of mundane, maybe. Um, and there's one as well on Ghost in the Machine. One World, Not Three, I think it's called. And again, I wouldn't call it a bad song. It doesn't kind of uh, give me that jolt kind of where I have with most of their other songs. So maybe one of those two, I'd say, um, for least favorite song. Yeah, probably one of those two. Um, then he has also, are you in a city of Ireland or town? Yeah, like I said from one of the other questions, it's kind of like a village slash small town, but I would say village. It's very small. The handy thing is though, I'm like only about 25 minutes from Limerick City, where if I was doing kind of theater work or stuff of that nature, it's not far. So I'm just on the outskirts. So I like being in a kind of a quieter area. I wouldn't like to live in the city, but it's handy obviously for things you need to do or to go in, or even just for stuff you need to buy or something like you go in there. So, but yeah, it's kind of more of a village. Um, Then he asks, do you yourself watch reaction videos, and if so, which channels do you like? Yes, I do. I really enjoy watching reaction videos. I like probably watched them since for the last 2, 3 years. They actually started, I think, with there was reactions to Stranger Things. I watched a lot of those. I love that show. Um, so yeah, and even as a child, I always loved watching my favorite movies and someone else being in the room and they're kind of watching it there as well. Always, like as a child, I always loved that. So like when this kind of became a thing on YouTube, I was like, oh, this is made for me. Like I just love, I really love watching them, like from my favorite movies. And then in terms of like favorite reaction channels, like sometimes I'll just kind of if someone has a reaction to one of my favorite movies, I'll just watch it. Like so something like Terminator or Jaws or Jurassic Park or something, I'll just watch it regardless. Even if it's like from a channel that I haven't really come across before, I'll just watch it. But in terms of like ones that I enjoy, I like You, Me and the Movies. I enjoy their reactions. I like I can't remember their names now, but the husband and the wife. I do enjoy it. They're good. I like them. And I know Madison Kay. She does a few westerns. I like her reactions. And I remember she did a reaction to Scream that I watched a couple of months back, which I really enjoyed. I like that a lot. She's good. I like her. And I used to watch a little bit. I haven't seen them in a while, but I used to, when they first started, they did a lot of horror films. Cinema Rules. I like some of their stuff. They kind of were funny as well. Uh, yeah, those guys are kind of cool. But they'd be kind of a few, but that I enjoy. But then there's others that, like I've watched stuff here and there by them, other channels. Just kind of if they do a film that I really like, I'll watch that. But yeah, I do very much enjoy watching channels as well. So next we have Tara Houghton 1370, and she asks, "Do you watch movies that are in black and white?" Yes, I do. I've actually watched a few for the channel. So My Darling Clementine. I've watched some of the Buster Keaton silent movies as well. Yeah, I'm not one of those people who like if it's in black and white I won't watch it. That doesn't bother me at all. If it's a good movie, it's a good movie. So that doesn't I don't mind. Some fantastic black and white movies I've seen. Some of my favorite movies of all time are black and white. Like I mentioned earlier, the original Frankenstein movie, The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, one of my favorite westerns. Great film. Um, and what's the very first movie that you can remember seeing, and was it in a movie theater? Uh, it wasn't in a movie theater, but I think the first film I remember watching would probably be The Fugitive with Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones. I was about maybe 2 or 3 at the time. I think because I think it was the first we had a video. We just got a video player. It was the first video we went rented. So I have yeah memories of watching that. And the other one is probably Stephen King's It, the miniseries, which absolute to this day I still Tim Curry. Like if I see an image of Tim Curry as Pennywise, it's still kind of if I'm not expecting it, I'll kind of like oh god, you know. But yeah, he like scarred my childhood. My older brothers were idiots. My two of my older brothers and my cousin, they were like about 10 years older than me. They had it on, and I was just absolutely petrified. So yeah, that's one of the earlier ones I remember watching as well. So yeah, probably those two. Um, let's see. Next one is from Michael Walsh 1035, and he asks, "Would you consider reacting to other classic genres such as war films and film noirs, etc.?" Yeah, definitely. I've watched two noir films. So The Big Sleep and The Maltese Falcon, but I will definitely be watching more noir films, and yeah, I'll be doing some more war films as well. Um, like the Friday reactions is kind of catered to kind of it's a variant of all different kind of genres. So like drama, comedy, horror, sci-fi, noir, war films, bit of everything. I have such an extensive list of movies, and there is a good few war ones on there, and there's a good few more, a lot of the war ones on there as well. Um, so yeah, I definitely do intend to watch some of them. I just kind of like to keep the Wednesday as the westerns. That was kind of the initial idea. So um, maybe over time I might change it, or I might just go both Wednesday and Friday. I'll just kind of have a variety. But for the moment, I'd like to kind of keep the westerns going because I'm really enjoying them. But yeah, definitely I will be doing reactions to other genre. Friday is like variant of all different kind of genres. Then he also asks, do you prefer owning a physical copy of your favorite movies or streaming? Definitely physical. There's a few there behind the searches poster now. I have a lot over here as well on this other shelf. But yeah, definitely. I love having a collection. I just love looking at the shelf and seeing like, especially if you've like a few films from the same franchise and you see like them in the row. I like categorizing, so I'll have like a horror section. I've a small western section now. I've got a few the last few months since I've been watching the westerns. Um, they have different kind of categories as well, like TV shows, box sets. So yeah, I know definitely prefer a physical copy. Obviously, streaming is practical and very handy, but I love having the same with books as well. I just like having physical, being able to touch it. It's just I don't know. It's like a hobby. Um, Then he says, recently in the US, 10 seconds of racially insulting dialogue was cut from the classic The French Connection by a streaming service. The dialogue was included to show the mindset of some police officers in the 1970s not to promote not to promote racial hatred. There is concern that streamers may censor material that is controversial regardless of the creator's intention. Yeah, I think that's wrong. Um, I mean, would you do the same if you thought like it was indecent to show like someone being murdered on screen? Like sometimes you have to like films have struggles or they show have to show someone in a bad light to get across the point of the story. Not everyone in the world is a nice person, so I think yeah, it's wrong to cut it out unless like it's just being racial just for the sake of being racial and there's no substance or reason behind it. But when it's to drive on the story and it's not like saying this is good but showing like this is you're maybe like looking at it and you're like what the hell, like that's film does that, like it creates joy, it creates anger, it creates happiness. That's all part of it, of what a film does. So yeah, I don't think that they should cut it out. Yeah, I wouldn't agree with that personally. um okay, I think we're oh sorry, here's no yeah we have let's make sure yeah, that was all his questions. Then we have Jenny Root 5620, and she asks, if you could work in the film industry, what would you do, Hollywood or elsewhere? Um, Acting. I would love to act because that was like from a very young age. I always liked. In school, I loved doing the plays. We used to do Christmas plays, and I just like that was my favorite time of the school year was doing that. Still love doing them. So yeah, it would definitely be in acting if I was in Hollywood. Um, I do think that I said like so Hollywood or elsewhere. I will say like because I've done like short films. I actually co-wrote and starred in a short horror film a couple of years ago. But I will say, in terms of acting, acting on the theater is a lot more fun because when you're doing film, it's like you'll do a take and okay, we might have to do a different angle on that, or we'll have to do this. So you stop start the whole time. But when you're doing a theater and you're on the stage in front of a live audience, it's a lot more of a thrill, and you're in the character the whole time. I find that more rewarding, but I think it's probably easier to get a better performance out of you in film because it's just like you'll do six takes and okay, we'll do that one. Where obviously in theater, if you if you fuck up, then tough. You just keep going. You know what I mean? But yeah, I would be in acting or writing. I love writing as well. Um, what decade of movies is your favorite so far? So I guess is that you mean from what I've been watching on the channel? Um, ooh, that's a good question. Maybe the 50s. I've seen a lot, like, there's a lot of good westerns, like, say, The Big Country was the 50s, The Man from Laramie was the 50s. Then there was really good films like Night of the Hunter, I think that was the 50s, and so was The Incredible Shrinking Man. So, yeah, maybe the 50s. There's a lot of really good films from the 1950s that I've enjoyed. So, probably the 50s, at least so far, anyway. And then, favorite movie snack. Uh, I guess you gotta go popcorn, don't you? That's kind of the classic staple. Although I do love having crispy M&Ms, the ones in the blue packet. They're really tasty. I love those. So yeah, probably popcorn or the crispy M&Ms. Um, let's see. I think we got. Oh, I think that's. Oh, I have a few actually on Patreon as well. Okay, so JM63 asks top three Western films. Oof, God, that's tough. Ah, God, there's so many great films in the genre. I'm gonna put Unforgiven in there. I just thought that was absolutely phenomenal film, and I loved the. It was so different from any western I'd seen before. The route of kind of showing the consequences of the violence of when you shoot someone. It really made you endure that with the characters, and like not just the people who were in pain who've been shot, but the person who did it and how they feel after. So yeah, Unforgiven was fantastic. I'd put that in there. Then I think I'm gonna put in. I think One Eyed Jacks Marlon Brando. I just thought that visually it was absolutely fantastic, and I just loved um, the nature of the story of him coming back, the whole revenge thing. With I can't remember the actor who played his friend, but the guy who portrayed him near the beginning. There was so much scope in the story and so much deception and kind of just really interesting characters and really tough moments in it. I just thought it was a brilliant, brilliant film. And it's actually Stanley Kubrick originally was directing that, but there was some kind of falling out with him and Brando, and Brando ended up directing it, and it was the only film he directed. But he did an amazing job and a great performance as well. And then the third one, I'm gonna go with The Man from Laramie. Oh, I just love that film. Jimmy Stewart, he's done so many great westerns, but that one, there's two moments in that that really stand out as well for me that like were so shocking. The moment when that guy shoots his mule, that was one of the hardest scenes I had to watch. And then the scene where they get the gun up on his hand, right up to it, and bang. I remember being taken aback because I didn't think a 50s western would depict kind of violence that like that. Um, but again, it was kind of that revenge story as well. There was a revenge story in that as well, with him looking for the thing with his brother. But I just love Jimmy Stewart, and I think that one. I loved a lot of his westerns, but I think The Man from Laramie was probably one of my favorites. Probably one of my favorite of his. But yeah, so I'd probably go with that three. Like it could change again, but if I was to pick it right now, it would be Unforgiven, One Eyed Jacks, and The Man from Laramie. Um, and then he had best intro film for someone who's never seen a western. I mean, The Great Train Robbery wouldn't be a bad one. I mean, it was probably the first, wasn't it the first western it was ever made? It has the bandits, train, horses. There's a gun, a shootout. It has a lot of the staples that you will see in the westerns going forward. So, but I know some people kind of aren't maybe not keen on a silent western. So I would say maybe the Gunfighter with Gregory Peck, because that was a brilliant film, and it has that thing of like, the gunslinger, the great gunslinger that you see in a lot of westerns. But I like the idea that like he's trying to escape it. There's a good substance to the story. He's trying to escape it, but people are going after him just because of the reputation. I think it's a really clever film, and it's not too long either. It's a lean runtime, so I think that might be a good way to start for someone who's going into the westerns. I thought it was a brilliant, brilliant film. So yeah, maybe The Good Fighter. And then Jared Day asks, how about expanding beyond westerns? Dramas and film noir are well worth checking out. Well, yeah, as I said, kind of to one of the other questions earlier, um, I the Fridays are kind of for that. They kind of are a variant of different kind of genres. But I will be definitely watching. I have a load of noirs on my watch list. Um, so I definitely tend to watch more noir films and dramas as well. I'll probably put a poll up again on Patreon, maybe just kind of asking, maybe what genre would you like to get this month or something like that. And then he also asks, how about some contemporary westerns? I strongly recommend Lone Star from the 1990s and Bad Day at Black Rock from 1955 with Spencer Tracy. Both kill it. Lone Star is definitely on my watch list. Bad Day at Black Rock, I'm not sure, but I'll add it to the list. Um, Actually, just your talk so contemporary westerns. I assume you're obviously mean kind of westerns in a modern setting. Uh, Coming up this week, actually. Again, I always say come up this week, but like fingers crossed, no, a copyright doesn't frig it up, like, because there's been a couple of times where that's happened. Like I remember Silent Green, I just could not get that film up. But anyway, digressing. The plan is to have No Country for Old Men up this Friday, which I believe is a kind of a contemporary setting western set contemporary setting of a western. So that's coming up this Friday actually. But Lone Star is definitely on the list, and I'll add what was the other one? Bad Day at Black Rock. I'll add that one as well, definitely. So yeah, I will be checking out some of the more contemporary westerns as well. Um, and I think that's it, guys. I think that's all the questions. If Yeah, pretty sure it is. I've left one out. Apologies. I'll do another mini one if I have, but I'm pretty sure I got through all of them. So I just want to say a big thank you to everyone for the questions. I hope you enjoyed them. Hope I didn't ramble too much, and I hope I gave you satisfactory answers with the questions. But yeah, there was a nice mix of stuff there. So hope you enjoy it, and I hope you enjoyed the 100 movie reaction tomorrow to Shane. But until next time, guys, slán go fóill.